Hey, so in this tutorial we would talk about how to make your 3D models configurable, how to present them in a way that those models react to the input changes of your product page. And while previously we simply imported some static 3D scans, this time we will use a very simple geometry of a cube and we will control it through variant inputs of your product. So let's get started and let's create a new product called cube. And we will name the description as well as test cube. So we will skip a lot of stuff here on the product page. What's most important to us is setting up the variants. So I will add a custom option called size, and I will call the first value 5, the second value 10, and third value 15. And these will correspond to the sizes of the cube that we will be selling. So imagine if you're having a table or something, and you want to sell it, you can use those sizes, like to control the width of the table or the height of the table, for example. And based on that, we will also implement pricing. So let's say that we're done with options. And now let's add the price. So the cube of size 5 will cost 10 euros. We will have 5 items available. The cube of size 10 will cost 20 euros and we will have 10 items available. And the cube of size 15 will be 30 euros and we will have 6 items available. Okay, so now we configured just the variants, and the cube itself. We can preview it and you will see that we simply have this simple basic form where we can control the piles here, and you see that the price updates, right? So variants do react with the price, and this is a default way in Shopify to configure your products. So now let's go back to the product page. So now if we want to set these values, we go to products and we will just use the bike example that we did previously to copy paste the JavaScript values. And I'll go back to the product, and for JavaScript we will just use that. For the script URL or inline script, we will do that later, right? So we will design the cube first in bit-by-bit developers platform. For the color, let's use some dark gray color for the background. We will say that we don't need any fonts, and for the camera target we'll use 0, 0, 0. And for camera position, we'll use something like 20, 20, 20. So this is fine. And now we can save the product. We don't yet have any 3D things attached to it, but let's use the 3D Bits app template that we've created previously. And one thing that we have to make sure of is that our bit-by-bit runner has Open Cascade technology kernel enabled. So let's enable that. Of course, this setting, as I mentioned previously, is global to all your products that use the template. So if you want to just configure Open Cascade for certain products, you just have to split this template into a separate template. Now we enabled Open Cascade. We don't have any 3D yet. So let's go back. Okay, so another thing that we have to do is we need to go into the bit-by-bit dev, and we will use this Read editor to design our cube. And that will use a CAD geometry from Open Cascade geometry kernel. And of course, the cube is very basic geometry, right? So it's very simple, but we will implement a little bit of boilerplate that needs to be there for the runner to work correctly. So 3D Bits app will have to respond to the inputs coming from the form. And for that, we will need some additional things. But let's get started with the cube. So the cube will live under this Open Cascade technology kernel category. Let's find the solid primitives and let's pick this cube. So another thing that you may find interesting is that if you click the right mouse button, you can also just type cube and you will find the same create cube commands in here, and you can click it and then you will get the cube component as well. So if you change the value in this input, you'll see that the cube just expands. And if you swap the canvas, you can just check how your product looks like in 3D view. So the cube is a very simple product, right? It just has one dimension and it sits on the center in your coordinate system. So let's get a bit more serious and let's add another component called number slider. A number slider is configurable slider where you can see that the minimum value is 5, the maximum value is 15, and we want to increment it in the values of 5. So you see that if I drag it, it changes the value in the step of 5. And if I connect it here by just clicking this and dragging it over there, you see that now the value gets passed into the size element. And now if I drag it, the cube reacts and gets larger. So this is quite simple. And how do we get the inputs from the form of the product page? Well, for that we will have to use some magic, and we have this runner category here, and we will use this get runner input value, and we will say that we need to get the size value. And we know that by heart because we named our property or options for variance as size. And that does matter. You have to be really precise what you get and what you react to. So those names are very important. If you just misspell it, then you know the value will not be transmitted. Okay, so now that we have this and this, we will also use a small logic gate called first defined value. So what this will do is it will make sure that whenever we use this script inside the editor, this graphical editor of read, that we can use the number slider. But when this code executes in the runner, in the Shopify 3D Bits app, then this value will be used and passed along. And this will be ignored. So the first value that gets defined gets passed along. And this is a simple solution for a problem that occurs if you have to use two sort of inputs in different sort of environments. So now we have this cube, and to get to the output part of this script, basically it's important that all of your scripts output a variable called meshes so that 3D Bits app knows how to dispose those from the scene. And to do that, we will use this set runner result value. We'll call it meshes. And another thing that we will do is we will use a draw command to get that mesh. So let's do that. Let's get it like this. And also we can hide then the mesh that is being produced for visualization purposes by this component. And we can also use some options. So we can go also here and say that we want to draw a simple Owen cascade shape. And here we can change the color of the cube. We can change the width of the edges. We can make them thicker like that, so you see it better. And another thing that we can do, of course, is because we pass the entities here, we can also use another Open Cascade commands like fillets, for example. So let's do that. Let's fillet edges of this cube, and that will create a roundings on the corners. So let's do that. Let's hide this part. And now instead of using cube as an input to the entity, let's use this here. And you see that now the rounding exists, but its radius is really small. So we can do this like 1. So this will create a better looking rounding. And we can test it out. We can go here and we can just drag this along to the maximum position and to the smallest position. And we see that it works. That means that the script performs as it should. And you know then that it will also work in your environment of Shopify. So if we watch what we have here, it's something called OST shape. And this is not yet the mesh, right? So the mesh is being created by this draw async component. And it's actually a list of meshes that we can just pass here directly. I think now we have everything that we need to pass this script along to Shopify. And let's do that. Let's hit export to runner. Here you see all JavaScript produced. Let's copy it. And as we did before, let's go here and let's paste it here. Okay, so now that we have that, we can save it. We need to also just make a small preview picture. So I'll do it here. I'll just make a screenshot like that. Okay, let's upload that. It's uploading. And now that we're done, we can go along and preview this item. So here you see that we have white background. Okay, so there was one small issue here and I fixed it by doing this. So previously we had this async function that was going straight to the value, but indeed in this case we do need to use a list element, and we have to create a list of meshes that goes into the output of the runner. So this way this whole thing will work much better. So export to runner. Let's copy this again and let's go back here into the inline script. Let's hit save. And now if we preview this product, you'll see that we have the version with a size of 5, we have 10, and we have 15. So currently this looks really nice. The problem that the background color doesn't work. I will check, maybe the meta field got unlinked in the process. So let's hit bit by bit runner. Let's find the background color. Yeah, as I suspected, it got thrown out. Okay, so now it picks up the value, and we can even change it to something more like blue. Save. Then go back to preview. This just picks up the things that are interesting to us. So this is cube. This is very simple. You see that the price reacts, cube changes its size. The quantity will not do anything in this case. And you can of course add this product to cart, right? So it will be of size 15, and yeah, it will apply the pricing. So another thing that you could do is look into adding lighting here. Maybe you want to add the skybox. So like if we do this, we can enable the skybox. You see that it's very easy to do. And also you can draw directional light. This will add some shadows. Let's add more intensity to it. And if we look at the cube now, it looks quite nice. What I don't really like is maybe the width of those edges. The precision could be a bit larger. That makes those edges look even better. So now the cube is looking great. And we can add even another thing into the scene, for example, a sphere maybe. So create sphere, and let's use a vector of x, y, z. Let's move it here. So maybe even further, so we can also construct a draw command for it. Hide the original, put it in the list. And we can even say that we want to control the radius of this sphere together. So let's put this to like 30, so that it's far away. Okay. And let's see what happens now. So let's export to runner. Let's hit copy. Let's get in here. Let's copy paste this to the inline script. Hit save. Go to preview. So now you see that we have our skybox. We have two bodies now in our scene, and both of them react to this one input of size. So this is of both cube and radius of the sphere that now gets attached to these inputs. Okay, so I think you understand now a little bit better how inputs work, how to go from having a form of the product, how to have variants, and then send your option that you select to bit-by-bit developer's script. Okay, this time this is it. Let's see each other in the next videos. Cheers.